I never imagined the first time I'd hear my wife talk about divorce would be through someone else's laughter. It was a Thursday night when my phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend. "Hey man, you okay? I heard Emily say some stuff tonight at dinner." I didn't understand at first. Then he explained. Emily had gone out with her co-workers and over glasses of wine and careless chatter, she announced, "I'm getting a divorce." The words hit me like a hammer. Divorce? She hadn't said a single word to me. Not a fight, not a conversation, not even a warning. We'd had arguments, sure, like any couple. But I thought we were still building, still trying. Hearing she had already decided, worse, that she told her friends before me, felt like the floor collapsing beneath my feet. When she came home that night, she didn't look guilty. She didn't even look surprised that I knew. She tossed her keys on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and said almost casually, "I assume you've heard." Like this was a business transaction and not the dismantling of our marriage. "What are you talking about, Emily?" I asked, my voice trembling more with disbelief than anger. "A divorce? That's how you announce it? At dinner with your friends?" She shrugged, her face unreadable. "I didn't think you'd care this much. Things haven't been good for a long time. You know that." And maybe she was right. Things had been strained. Less laughter, fewer late-night talks, a growing distance I could feel every morning when we passed each other in the kitchen like strangers. But still, I believed in fixing things. I believed in us. That night, while she went to bed without a word, I sat in the living room staring at the shadows on the wall, the word divorce echoing in my head. I realized then that I had a choice. To beg for scraps of her attention or to reclaim my dignity. And dignity, once lost, is almost impossible to regain. The next morning, the air between us was so tense it felt like a storm about to break. She moved around the kitchen, slamming cabinet doors louder than necessary. The clinking of plates almost aggressive. I sat at the table, my coffee growing cold as I tried to summon the words that might salvage what was left of us. But she got there first. "You embarrass me," she spat, not even looking at me. "Last night was supposed to be fun, and you ruined it." I blinked, stunned at how effortlessly she had twisted the night around, placing the blame on me as though I had been the one to mock our marriage. Her voice cracked with anger, but beneath it, I could hear something else, fear maybe, or guilt she couldn't name aloud. I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just stood, walked to the drawer where I had hidden the papers I had prepared weeks ago after too many nights of being made to feel invisible. My hand trembled slightly as I pulled them out. She looked up finally, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "What's that?" she demanded, her bravado faltering just for a second. I slid the envelope across the table. The scrape of paper on wood echoed like a gunshot in the quiet kitchen. "Divorce papers," I said simply. Her breath caught, her face paling as though I had slapped her. For the first time in a long while, the room was quiet. No accusations, no insults, no laughter at my expense. Just silence. She opened the envelope with shaking fingers, scanning the pages, her lips parting as though she wanted to protest but couldn't find the words. I watched her, and all I felt was a strange, hollow calm. As though I had been carrying a weight for years and had finally set it down. The woman who had mocked me in front of her friends, who had pushed me away every time I reached out, suddenly looked small, fragile even. But I couldn't let pity drag me back into the cycle we had been trapped in. She finally found her voice, though it was little more than a whisper. "You can't be serious, Michael. This isn't what you want. You're just angry." But her attempt at control came too late. I shook my head slowly, meeting her eyes with a steadiness she wasn't used to. "I was angry months ago," I said. "I was hurt when you laughed with your friends about our marriage. I was broken when you chose humiliation over love. But now? I'm done." The truth in those words hung in the air, heavy and irreversible. Tears welled in her eyes, smudging the mascara she had so carefully painted on the night before. She reached across the table as though to grab my hand, but I pulled back. "Don't," I said, my voice firm, almost foreign to my own ears. "You wanted an audience when you talked about divorce. Now you have the reality of it." Her shoulders slumped, and for the first time, she seemed to understand that her performance had consequences. The silence between us was no longer filled with tension, but with finality. When I stood to leave, she didn't follow. She just sat there, staring at the papers, the sound of her shallow breaths the only proof that time hadn't stopped altogether. I walked through the living room, noticing how empty the house felt, as though even the walls knew this was the end. The photos on the wall, smiles frozen in better days, felt like relics from a life that no longer belonged to me. At the door, I paused, waiting for some last word, some plea that might change everything. But none came. As I stepped outside, the morning sun felt different, warmer, freer, almost like a benediction. For years, I had been begging for scraps of love, accepting ridicule as normal, convincing myself that endurance was the same as devotion. But in that moment, with the signed papers behind me and the road ahead, I realized something vital. Sometimes the bravest thing a man can do isn't holding on, it's letting go. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finally choosing myself.